and I'm delighted to say Paul Geaney is with us ahead of the beginning of the Alliance Leagues, which return this weekend. The beginning of the Alliance Leagues represents the dawning of new possibilities for the season ahead, with the Alliance Football League standings determining which counties will compete for the Sam Maguire and Talton Cups. Paul, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Good this morning.
You're out injured at the moment, so not actually technically prepping for this game next week. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. I just got a small procedure there before Christmas. It was kind of at me all last year. Well, most of last year, but mainly in the club side. And I just needed to get it tidied up if I wanted to continue at the top level. I probably would have got away with it at club level for another while. The extra 10 minutes, so on county level and the standard as well. So just got to tidy it up in another few weeks now, and hopefully be back for the bulk of the league, but we'll see.
Recovering from injury is obviously one of the worst parts of being an inter-county player. Are you better at it this time because you know it's for a specific reason of getting back to that level, whereas in your middle of your career you're like, oh, this is just a pain in the ass and I'm missing out?
Yeah, I suppose I've plenty of tahi with it now as well, having it down the years, just bits and pieces, but and some major operations as well. So I'm plenty experienced with it. It's a lonely place to be, especially the medium to long-term injuries. But I know, look, it's probably the best time of year if I was to have something. It was earlier in the year, so that I'll have hopefully a clean bill of health and a good run at it after I get back. So I'm not very panicked. I trust in my body as well to make it back, and my fitness is generally good, and I touch wood now, but I don't generally pick up the smaller needles and stuff as well during the year. So I just trust the S&C lads to get me back there, and I'll hopefully be A1 then when I get back, and no further niggles. I think that's the key.
I suppose when you have a couple of young kids at home, Paul, it probably helps you not dwell on the little injuries and things like that as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, the school run now after I get off the phone to you, so there'll be no talk about my injury and how I'm going and how I'll train tonight in the car on the way to town. There'll be more questions about what's this and what's that. And have I ever heard of a Bakugan? Have you?
No, a bottle what?
A Bakugan.
No.
It's an Irish word, is it?
Yeah, like a Pokemon thing on TV. So
Right.
that's where the interest is at the moment. No,
see, kids don't care about medals. They don't care about medals or winning matches or losing matches.
I think Pokemon is a curse. And I cursed the day that it entered my life. I thought that I was finished with it until recently, when all of a sudden it has come back, and we found out a couple of weeks ago that our youngest had brought a $5 in and bought some. I was like, what are you doing? Give him anyway. So
old man yells at cloud here.
It's all ahead of you.
I was a big fan of Pokemon, so
where are you? You're indulging this.
Not yet, until he gets there maybe. But they've all changed too, so I'll be lost. This was it. There's a million more of them now than there was in my time. There was only 150 when I was growing up, which was
you could collect them all
sensible.
Then.
Yeah. Does young Paulie have so it's a Pokemon in one hand, and is it a football in the other, or has football even entered his sphere of thinking just yet?
Yeah, no, it hadn't really entered his sphere really, bar going to my games and watching me, but and the odd training there Sunday mornings, but more and more it's coming now, and the classmates are big into it as well. So it's nice, and in the winter there in Donegal, they're up in the hall, so they're not freezing up in the field. And because of different engagements throughout the winter, and that I wasn't able to make much of it, but the last one or two there now I've been at, so it's good to get up to them, but trying to encourage him a little bit more towards the ball now. Yeah, it's he's just turned 6 last week, so it's time for him to start getting dummy solos, I think, and off the left and right.
Well, you're born with a football in your hand, aren't you, down in Kerry? In Donegal, I suppose it's either football or fungi.
Yeah, and unfortunately fungi's gone, so hopefully it's all football now.
The Comortis, I saw the launch was this week. This is the Comortis Pella Paulie O'Shea tournament that's on every year. It goes from strength to strength, and it's a massive, important event in the area in a generally dead time for tourism.
Yeah, it's great how popular it's become as well as a pre-season tournament, and that's credit to Padraig there, who's driven it on the last couple of years. And you know what? There's nothing else really happening this time of year, so it's great for the area as well, because there's I think he brought down 30 plus teams a couple of years ago, and maybe he's tightened the ship on that a small bit the last 1 or 2 years, but to have that around and in a dead February weekend in a small town like Donegal, it's huge for the area, and it provides work basically for most of the town for a weekend, and our Dingle's good like that too. There's always something on in Dingle. Most weekends there's something on anyway. So he's added to that, and the quality of football is pretty high for her pre-season. Dingle play it every year and get huge value out of it. So and then definitely the travelling teams come down and they get some bonding time as well, which is hugely important in the calendar fixtures as it goes on. There's not much time for that. So a trip to Dingle is never a bad idea, I don't think.
No.
And well, maybe the trip home. Maybe the trip home. I think about that on a Sunday.
Look, people might not know, but you're a publican. How has Dingle recovered post COVID? Is it back? Is it like, you see on Instagram, all my mates have been to Dingle since COVID. It's almost like it was one of the first things that they stuck on their list. So is it back totally? Is it normal again?
Yeah, Dingle's back. Yeah, Dingle was there even during the COVID period. Dingle was hugely popular as a destination, and as much as possible, we tried to put on all the events that were there with safety measures in place. And then where that wasn't possible, they were gone for a small while. But everything's back in full flow now again in Dingle. It started off, I think, with the failing of Bealtaine last year, the Pagan Rave, which you might have seen, and that was in the back of my place. And that was a successful festival, and then from there it took off, and we had a crazy summer. It was great. The weather was super. We won the All Ireland, which added to the Carnival Festival as well around the town and the county. And then there was Horse and Pony Festival in August, Food Festival, marathons, the whole lot. Other voices then towards the peak end or the tail end of the season, in the start of December, and Christmas went very well too. So. Dingle's in full flow at the moment and can only get better. Hopefully more people will start coming as well. They haven't come before, and it'll lead towards a guaranteed future for tourism in Dingle, because we've often relied on Killarney as a kind of a day tripping destination out of Killarney or out of other areas. But people are more and more coming now for 2 days and 3 day stays, and that's better for the town, and it's better for the small businesses as well that will pick up trade during the day rather than just for a day hour or two.
And you have Dry January finishing as well next Wednesday, Paul, which should help as well, give it a kickstart.
I read somewhere that's the millennials' answer to Lent, is it? Dry January.
Yeah, a cursed month. I'm sure you had a team holiday with the Kerry lads before Christmas. Am I right in saying that? I'm sure that wasn't a dry holiday.
Yeah, we did. I know it was tame enough. We went to Dubai and Mauritius for the bones of 12 to 14 days. Different fellas had different schedules, and it was nice to get away as a group. And we actually, see myself and my wife, stayed in Dubai for an extra day or two because she had to come home for the kids. And I just went on then for 2 or 3 days to Mauritius to meet the lads, and it was great to spend so much time together. And we hadn't really seen each other either since the summer. It was a chance to mend any mishaps from club fixtures and all that. So we had 2 good weeks there now, and fellas kept themselves in good shape. Now, to be fair, there was no. I tell you, it wasn't the same as the holidays that they had in the 0-0s, and that's for sure.
Not as many stories coming out of them, no doubt. We'll wait for the books. When you all release books in 5-10 years, we'll get the full story. You had East Kerry, and Dingle took on East Kerry at one stage, so you had the might of David Clifford and Paulie Clifford as well, of course. So that must have been it must be enjoyable to come up against the county lads in club fixtures. I'd say it's quite fierce during the game, and then you're all mates afterwards. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the same as even in training. It's going to be that way. We're all competitors and we all want to win. Even if it's in training, there might be bust-ups and that. So, but no, it was good to test ourselves against East Kerry because we had a poor championship last year. We were dumped out early enough by Cairns-Rallies. I think it was quarter-final stages, and we were fairly well beaten that day. So we were disappointed for the bones of 8 or 9 months to try and get back, and we started slowly in the club championship here and made the semi-finals, but had a sending off in the first minute that kind of cost us. So Temple went on. Cairns-Rallies obviously beat them in that, but then we got to the semi-finals against East Kerry and probably were in control as well of the game with I don't know 72 gone, and Paul O'Shea came on for East Kerry and kicked an equaliser from 40 plus yards with the wind, and Then Paul Murphy obviously broke our hearts then with a shot from, I would say, maybe 55 out towards the sideline outside of the booter. And it's tough when you're playing against teams that are capable of that, because you can't mark every fella. And even though we kept David relatively quiet that day, and Paddy, I think he got 1-1 or 1-2, but the goal was a bit of a messy one where every time the rebound came out, it seemed to fall to one or two of the East Kerry fellas, and we had about 15 fellas back there at that point to play. So we didn't get the luck on the day, and they went on, and they were deserving winners. They probably would say themselves they were only in second or third gear, which would be fair enough, but we played very well, so we were happy out and we acquitted ourselves well. That's what we kind of went out to do at the start of that championship, but when you get so close, it's very disappointing. And it's another year gone, unfortunately, but we'll try and come back again this year.
You had 15 players back there, you said. You didn't say 16.
Maybe a tactic for next year.
Yeah, potentially. What have you made of the whole thing, Paul? Because it's obviously, I guess it's garnered headlines. I'm sure it happens in club football across the country, mistakenly, time and time again. But I guess when it happens in an All-Ireland senior club final, it gets the headlines going, and calls for replay now this week have been fairly heating up. What have you made of the whole thing?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, I think, really, at this stage. It's unfortunate it happened. Human error, it's bound to, we've all made errors. It's just unfortunate that it was the biggest game of the club season that this one happened in, and it's highlighted probably a grey area in the rule book that'll be tidied up after this. But I'm not sure how they're going to go about it. I see that there has been moves made from Glenn, and there's a situation to be dealt with, but hopefully they'll come to a conclusion that'll suit both clubs and keep everyone content. But I just feel sorry for all the players involved, really, that have put the year on hold, and they've thought that the game is over on Sunday, and this is dragging on a little bit. And I've seen that there's weddings and other commitments, and people are probably have holidays booked as is usual the week after All Ireland's. I remember the Dubs had a week booked the week after the 19 final, and they all had to re-book that after we drew. And I suppose when they thought it was going to be on the day done, there was fellas travelling and stuff. So that's it's a messy one, and look, there's no real winners out of it, I don't think. So hopefully it'll come to a good conclusion. It's definitely the topic of the week, though. And there's probably more than just that in GAA at the moment with the rules that until they're kind of highlighted, they don't get fixed either, because there's a lot of grey area inside there. So it's unfortunate, but I suppose it's just the way it is.
Paul, on a personal level, pardon me, coming back for the year, you're at a different stage of your career now, where for the vast majority of your career you were an automatic starter, first choice. You've got to try and get back to that position again, where as training goes on over the course of the week and the team is about to be named, you're very confident that you're going to be there. How do you do that? What's your motivation to make sure that you're at a level that you feel comfortable that you're delivering on your own skill and experience and talent?
Look, I've always said that as long as I'm on the field, and if I can get my body right without injury, I'm in with a good chance that I'll hit form at some stage. And that's my main focus, is to get injury free and back in a run of training, not miss any sessions. I think that's important, definitely for me. You can just get the consistency in training. The other few bits and pieces generally fall in place for me with the work I put in. But maybe it's slightly different, as I am on the other side of my career at this stage, and there's huge talent pushing for places behind me. But I just trust in my own ability, and if what I provide and produce over the next 6 months isn't good enough to get in the Kerry team, I probably, not being big-headed, but I would see that as only a positive for the Kerry team, because I'm going to push hard, and I'm far from finished. And my performances last year are a couple of minutes and maybe the semi-final and one or two of the early club games. I finished strong in the year, and I played very well in the county championship as well. So I would say that my performances aren't really slipping any bit. maybe the spotlight is on you more as you get older. Well, I think that's a fact. If a younger player has one or two good games, they're afforded a couple of bad games. But the minute an older player has one bad game, the talk is that they're probably done, or they're past it. So that's probably one of the factors you have to deal with. You have to be more consistent in performances as you get older, and make sure that you don't have those bad days, which you're probably afforded when you're younger.
I think that's a key point, that actually one of the massive successes of the Dublin period when Jim Gavin was in charge was that older players were kept around, and some of them saw game time, some of them didn't see game time, but it meant that the standards in training were of players who knew exactly what was required. So the new younger players who were coming in were put to the pin of their collar in training, and put to the pin of their collar when it came to upholding whatever the value system was to drive the winning culture. And so it's a kind of underrepresented part of your 10,000 hours in around Kerry squads all the way back to your very start. Like, we're not great in the GA at acknowledging that. It's more, kick a wide, off you go, thanks very much, you've had your time.
Yeah, I think that's true. Also, I think it's taken me so long to learn how to train and learn how to fit the, I wouldn't say fit the mold, but you get what I'm saying, like to play my part in a team. And older players the same, other older players are the same. That there's a lot of value in younger players from learning from that and upholding those standards that the team has. And we're probably less distracted, I would imagine, than younger players that have college lives and different bits and pieces going on. My life is pretty it's pretty boring at the moment. If you want to compare it to some fella that's doing lots of different things, I work, family, and football, and I love that routine. I'm very content with that, and it probably helps that it's a set thing every day for me, and the routine is the same. So I'm not distracted in any way, which I might have been a couple of years ago from other things that are going on. So I think that helps as well, that you might have those couple of fellas in the squad. No, younger players mightn't be distracted either, but I think that the older the players, there's probably more continuity in their life, so that'll definitely help them.
The young lads in the team have Pokemon to distract them, I'm sure, as well, and things like that. Yeah. At this stage of your career, Paul, do you try and find, especially a year after you've won an All-Ireland, I guess you have to try and find motivation from somewhere, and not newspaper on the dressing room wall, but a reason to come back and keep going. It strikes me that Kerry haven't defended an All-Ireland since 2007. So is that a real thing in your minds as a squad? You want to not just be a winning team, but an iconic Kerry team?
I don't think that's anything in our minds at the moment. I think all we're trying to do is get performances and make sure that we're getting the best out of ourselves. I think personally that if you maximise your talents and you're doing everything right and you're getting performances, that the consequences might be the silverware at the end of the day. And if you obsess yourself about getting silverware at the start, then you're missing all the fun and the enjoyment of the day-to-day training and everything that goes on in between, because you're so focused on something on the horizon that you'll miss what's at your feet. So we kind of try to approach it with just enjoyment of every day and driving each other to get performances every training session and every weekend. So that's what the lads will be doing this weekend. Now there's a lot of new guys in, and we're small bit behind the curve because we didn't come back until 28th of December or so. So it'll be tough for the first while, but that's the way we're going to approach it. We won't be looking at any talk about legacies or history books or any of that, because that's what you do when you hang up the boots and you look back, and it's talk for the media, but it's not talk that we'll entertain in our dressing room anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. Orla Farmer kind of said something similar yesterday. She's just retired, of course, from Cork as a footballer, and she was saying, the 6 All-Irelands almost don't matter at this stage. It's nearly the memories and the years with the girls and the team that she holds on to. You referenced earlier when we were talking about the Glen Kilmacud stuff, the other rules maybe in Gaelic football at the moment that frustrate players. We have players on the show all the time that have issues, whether it's the advance mark or other issues as well. What particular rules at the moment, Paul, really get to you, or do you look at and think, well, Jesus, that could be done differently or better?
There aren't a whole pile. There's very little light change. I think the best rule that's been brought in over the last while was the middle mark, because it afforded a contest in the air, and it awarded the high mark, which Dave Moran, having stepped down this week and left the inter-county panel, was a showcase for that talent over the last 10 years. But that was one of the better ones, and then after that, I think there's a little bit too much tinkering with rules and bringing in rules, and then rules gone. I remember a couple of years ago there was 5 brought in for a league, Allianz League run, and then they were gone again. And it's the frustrating thing is the hand pass a couple of years ago. It was very frustrating to try and play, and they were looking for a clear striking action of the ball, which was already happening, whether it was fast or slow, and it didn't improve the hand pass. That rule has gone again, so I'm not sure why these things come in. Obviously, they're a hot topic for a small while, but the only thing I would say that's possible would be look, there's a number of things in sports you could look at. Maybe the basketball backcourt rule is one that'll be easy enough to ref, and you have to think about refs as well when you're thinking about bringing in rules and how easy they are to referee, because I mean that they're the guys that have to keep all that in their head and control the situations as well. So maybe backcourt rule might lead to more of a turnover or more of a pressing game from the 45 to the 65 to get rewarded for turnovers if a team went behind the midfield again, and it would maybe dismantle the possession style game that we see a lot more coming into the game, which is probably more boring as a spectator, if I would say so personally. So it would lead to teams, when they get over the halfway line, maybe trying to get a score quicker, or the opposition team trying to push them back to get the turnover. And then that would open up a defence. Obviously, if they didn't manage to turn over, there'd be holes from the 45 back. So that would be something maybe that I personally would like to see coming in from using a basketball rule. Then I would always have been in favour of either the 2 refs or either the 2 refs or the linesman having more of a say in a game to help out a referee. They have a little bit of control at the moment, but the man in the middle has all the call at the moment, and I think in the big games it's no harm to have that little bit more help, and that wouldn't be the worst, I don't think. But obviously, as you go down the ranks and into clubs and into the lower divisions of clubs, that's not going to happen, because the man in the middle is maybe bringing somebody for the line or the umpiring, so that's a difficult one to say. But other than that, I'm happy with the game. Like, maybe the forward mark was unnecessary to bring in, but you can't say that it's destroyed the game, and you can't say that it has stopped goals from going in, because I think last year's championship had the most amount of goals ever. So at the moment, I'm happy with all the other rules.
Paul, I can pretty safely guarantee that this is the first time on the show we've had pagan raves and Pokemon in the same conversation. So. That sounds amazing, by the way. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Best of luck with the recovery.
Cheers. Check it out on Twitter. It's up there. Type it in, and you get to see what the Burning Man was and all that.
Well, we might come down to do the show live the following morning.
Road show. Yeah.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks a million. Take care. It's Paul Geaney there helping us remind everybody that the Allianz Leagues are back this weekend.